Hi, and welcome to AmalgamNation Presents World of Lorecraft. We will be continuing with the Titanic creations, starting with the Dwarven race, and there is a lot of lore to go through with these guys, and a lot of information to go through with these guys as well. But before I get to that, I just want to apologize for any weird sounds or any changes in how my voice sounds. I've just got back from a convention, and I'm recording using the microphone off my gaming headset instead of my actual microphone because I haven't unpacked that thing yet. And I'm being very lazy at the moment by not doing so. So please bear with me. Dwarves are short and stout creatures, mostly inhabiting Casmodan in the Eastern Kingdoms. They are shorter than humans but taller than gnomes, taking advantage of their size when possible and relying on their robustness and strength when not. The average dwarf is steady, observant, and composed both during work and combat, yet able to rage with fierce zeal and persistence when the situation calls for it. While a dwarf prefers to plan forward to overcome challenges, many of them easily lose their temperament and self-restraint when exposed to conditions stirring their feelings and concerns. Dwarves are treasure seekers, explorers, and courageous fighters. In past ages, the dwarves rarely left the safety of their mountain fortresses, spending their time on refining metal and stone into powerful weapons and beautiful jewellery. However, when the call to battle sounded, they rose up to defend their friends and allies with unmatched courage and valour. Dwarves are fond of drinking, mining, and finding treasure. However, the dwarves are most interested in their past and their relationship with the Titans. Origin and evolution of dwarves. Earthen dwarves. The dwarves derive from the Earthen, a prototype race of humanoid creatures consisting of living stone. The Earthen were one of the races created by the Titans in order to help shape Azeroth after the Titans were gone, a so-called subterranean being matrix. As creations of the Vanir Titans, the part of Azeroth the Earthen were to shape was the earth and the underground. Although the Earthen was a successful creation at first, things would soon change. The curse of flesh created by the old gods affected the Earthen, causing them to mutate into the vicious Trogs. As the Trogs had a very reduced cognitive ability compared to the original Earthen and other unfortunate aspects the Titans didn't find pleasing, such as cannibalism, the Trogs were sealed away, primarily within the ancient Titan city of Uldaman. Although the Earthen were susceptible to the curse of flesh, the Titans chose to modify the prototype rather than begin all over again. This modification created Earthen referred to as Series 2. These Earthen did not transform into Trogs, but into Dwarves. While the transformation turned their physical bodies mirroring the stone found on Azeroth into weaker flesh, they still maintained their mental affinity for it, along with their cognitive abilities. The dwarves were actually akin to a return to the default subterranean being that the Titans typically created. This had not been the Titans' intentions, and they would continue to modify the Earthen, but they were satisfied with this outcome, seeing the dwarves acceptable to carry out their task in their own right. When the Well of Eternity imploded at the end of the War of the Ancients 10,000 years ago, causing the Sundering, the transforming Series 2 Earthen were deeply affected, feeling the pain of the earth as if it were their own. They retreated to the places of their origin, the Titan cities of Uldum, Uldaman, and Ulduar, and hibernated for almost 8,000 years. When they awoke, many of them found that their powers over stone and earth had waned, and that their rocky hide had softened to smooth skin. Emerging from their Titan homes, the dwarves from Uldaman made their way out of the Titan city and eventually built Ironforge in Dun Morogh. This transformation, along with other factors, have created several different kinds of dwarves. Sometimes the differences derive from different ways of living and philosophy, but often they manifest themselves in the amount of change a dwarf has evolved from the Earthen. Some dwarves, like the ones living in Ironforge, have undergone a rather complete transformation, with the exception of stone form. becoming fully fleshy creatures. Others seem to have undergone a semi-change, having aspects of both a fleshy creature and the traits of the Earthen, like the Frostborn. The Titans eventually found a way to make Earthen that were immune to the curse of flesh, which became newly produced by the Forge of Wills and other systems. These Earthen never experienced being affected by the curse of flesh, still consisting of soil and stone, such as the few remaining Eastern Kingdoms Earthen found in Uldaman and the Earthen of Ulduar found in Northrend. Although the Titans mark their presence all over Azeroth, dwarves evolving from Earthen are limited to Northrend and the Eastern Kingdoms. In Northrend, the original Earthen from Ulduar evolved into the Frostborn, while in the Eastern Kingdoms, the original Earthen from Uldaman evolved into Ironforged dwarves, which later split into Wildhammer, Dark Iron, and Bronzebeard clans. The Dwarves and the Alliance. The dwarves and their progenitors, the Earthens' interactions with other races and factions, except for with the Titans, has been most related to the Alliance. Albeit the dwarves are the major actors in this event, Earthen were also called upon to join the Alliance during the War of the Ancients. While the Alliance did not actually exist during this time, this event was probably the first time the Earthen encountered races like humans and dragons. The now-fleshed dwarves have played a much greater role in the Alliance, while the dwarves in Northrend have stayed rather inactive and never ventured far away from Ulduar. The dwarves emerging from Uldaman have travelled across much of the world and interacted with many other races. They encountered the humans, perhaps their most important allies, 1800 years before the First War, and at the same time the High Elves, as the elves and humans were already allies. Interaction between the dwarves and the humans increased and the two races soon became allies. For instance, it was the humans who taught the dwarves how to write in common. The humans also introduced the dwarves to the Holy Light. The dwarves on their side used their knowledge to craft powerful weapons for the humans, such as the Ashbringer. Apparently it was also humans who came up with the name dwarf, although the Night Elves had already used it as a derogatory term for Earthen before the War of the Ancients. One of the few humans against this union of dwarves and humans was Lord Garithos, who discarded all other races as freaks, calling the dwarves idiots and the like. He was however killed by the Forsaken at the end of the Third War. 200 years ago the dwarves also met the gnomes, situated in their small villages west of Ironforge. Both races have a fascination in technology and exchange their creations with one another. Since this union began, the gnomes and dwarves have often been treated as one faction instead of two. By helping each other build amazing devices and weapons, this union has served the Alliance well, supplying the front lines with heavy artillery and explosives. One of the most important events deriving from this friendship was the building of Gnomergan, where both races built the city of gnomes together. When Gnomergan later was overtaken by Trogs during the Third War, the gnome refugees fled under the dwarves' protection in Ironforge in order to plan a counterattack. They still remained there in Tinkertown. These four races were further joined together during the Second War, when the humans sought the aid of various kingdoms inhabiting Lordaeron in the battle against the Horde. Originally only the humans were invited, but races such as the dwarves with the gnomes and the high elves applied as well when they saw their lands being ravaged. Political leaders like King Tyrannus and Anduin Lothar gathered the dwarves of the Ironforge and Wildhammer clans, gnomes, high elves and humans into the Alliance of Lordaeron, which ultimately defeated the Horde and laid ground for the present-day Alliance. Although this organisation has changed much since then, with the departure of some members like most of the High Elves, now Blood Elves, and the gaining of new members like the Draenei and the Night Elves, Dwarves still stand as one of the core parts of the Alliance. War of the Three Hammers. The Dwarves of Ironforge were originally part of the Ironforge clan. They later were divided into three factions: the Bronzebeard clan who controlled the city, the Wildhammer clan who controlled the foothills of the mountain, and the Dark Iron clan who lived in the shadows of the mountain. When the High King of all the Dwarves, Modimus Anvilmar, died, violence broke out into a civil war, which resulted in the victorious Bronzebeard clan keeping Dunmorrow, the Wildhammers settling in Grimbatal in the wetlands, and the Dark Irons settling in the Red Ridge Mountains and founding the city of Thorasan, named after their leader. The Dark Irons were bitter about their loss and attacked both kingdoms all at once to prevent one to come to the other's aid. Thorsan led his army to Ironforge and was ultimately defeated. Thorsan's wife, Modgud, invaded Grimbatal and used her magic to break through the gates and lay siege to the Wildhammers. Cardros Wildhammer, ruler of Grimbatal, slew the Dark Queen and was victorious. The clan of Ironforge then went on the offensive and marched into the Dark Iron clan's capital, but the Dark Irons had accidentally summoned Ragnaros, the Lord of Fire. Ragnaros ravaged the Red Ridge Mountains and enslaved the Dark Iron clan. Seeing this terror, those of Ironforge turned back to their homes. Unfortunately, Modgud's magic had made the Wildhammer homeland uninhabitable, so they left and migrated north and settled in the hinterlands and founded the city of Airy Peak. There the Wildhammers became more bonded with nature and learned to ride the mighty griffins. However, some Dark Iron dwarves who had survived to the end of the war fled into Grimbatal. They were transformed by the Modgud's dark magic and became something more reptilian than humanoid, called the Skardine. The Explorers League. The Explorers League, or Explorers Guild as it is also called, is a recent organisation founded by the Dwarves seeking to uncover their past and relation to the Titans. Searching for Titan artifacts and ruins, as well as other kinds, as for that matter. Their dig sites and camps can be found all over Azeroth. Some are even stationed in Outland. Information recovered is carefully analysed and stored in the Hall of Explorers in Ironforge. The shared duties of either being out on adventure, digging in the ground for lost treasures, or sitting home in Ironforge while filing reports and schedules have given the Explorers League an effective system. It's a rapid development. Information recovered increases all the time, and so does the League's members. The Explorers League was founded shortly after the Third War. Dwarves had followed the humans to Kalimdor as soldiers against the Burning Legion, and in the aftermath of this war, the Dwarves discovered they might have been created by powerful beings to shape the earth. Ruins in Kalimdor suggested that the Dwarves' past may have been connected to the Titans, and teams of prospectors, excavators, and archaeologists were quickly assembled and dispatched to all corners of the world in order to investigate. Additionally, a new area of Ironforge was financed in order to house the League's work. As much of the information about the Titans was lost during the Earthen's slumber after the Great Sundering, the information has to be gathered all over again from relics and data that the Titans left behind. Becoming a member of the League is not an easy task. It requires the applicant, which is nearly always a dwarf, to possess supreme skills in everything from the recognition of mines and herbs to mapping and geography. The League's most profound member is Bran Bronzebeard, a dwarven explorer who has seen nearly all corners of the world, which has granted him quite the insight in the dwarves' past. While the dwarves' allies such as the humans and the gnomes do not share as much motivation for this project as the dwarves do, they still support and aid the organisation. Not only does the League provide much information about distant areas and cultures, several gold mines have also been found during the League's excavations. The humans have also found a greater interest in the League's activity as a result from encounters with the Virkul in Northrend, which are the progenitors of humans. Apparently humans seem to, although somewhat indirectly, derive from the Titans as well. The League's struggle to gain knowledge of the Titans has not only resulted in a better understanding of the world, it has also unlocked one of the dwarves' ancient abilities, stone form. This ability lets the dwarves turn their skin into stone, becoming similar to the earthen for a short period of time. While this ability is already useful against effects such as poison, the dwarves believe that this is only the first step in reclaiming their earthen powers. Current situation of the dwarves. The dwarves today are spread all over Azeroth, Outland and Draenor, helping their friends with everything from slaying monsters to seeking for treasures. Their talent for forging metals and ore have had a large impact on their culture and style of living. Their cities consist of enormous forges and seething foundries accompanied by enchanted anvils and tools for handling the molten ore. Runes in various shapes create intricate borders and ornaments adorning their constructs and architecture, possibly inspired by the runes passed down to them from the Titans. The majority of dwarves serve the Alliance. This includes the Ironforged, Wild Hammer and Frostborn dwarves. The Ironforged ones are the most populous, found as everything from guards within Ironforge to soldiers on the front lines against whatever the Alliance is fighting. The Wildhammer dwarves are also often found as soldiers for the Alliance, but many of them spend their time at their home in the hinterlands. The Frostborn dwarves are the least active kind of dwarf within the Alliance, only found at their home, Frosthold, in the Storm Peaks, where they seem to be doing next to nothing. A large part of the Alliance's dwarves are also, as mentioned, dedicated to the Explorers League, differing from many of the other dwarves in the Alliance, as the goals of the League and the Alliance are rather different. Still, they work together, suppressing their enemies and aiding their allies while revealing the secrets of the world. The Alliance has been deeply affected by their dwarf members since the humans began it. Known for firing flaming gunshots and cannonballs at the enemy during war while drinking ale and beer in surplus amounts during peace, dwarves have affected the Alliance's style of warfare and culture. Dwarves not allied with the Alliance include the Dark Iron Dwarves and various dwarves working for different organisations such as the Venture Co., Pirates, the Argent Dawn and Twilight's Hammer. Of these, only the Dark Irons resemble a true faction of dwarves. In the other cases, the dwarf could be swapped out with any random creature also aligned with the said faction, such as a gnoll or a tauren, without any relevant change occurring. Their goals and desires differ from most other dwarves, making them freelancing individuals following whatever seemed more profitable. Dwarven culture. Dwarves in nature are masters in the arts of blacksmithing, metalwork, and mining. They are also superb at developing and constructing machinery. They have developed several different types of siege weapons, such as siege engines and steam tanks, and flying machines, such as gyrocopters and the dwarven flying machines. As for blacksmithing, the dwarves are masters at creating new weaponry and armour. There are some who believe the dwarves have the capability of imparting their emotions directly into the weapons and armour they craft, with the example of Magni Bronzebeard, who did not believe much in the notion that his race could possess such an incredible capability, but when he was creating the Ashbringer at the Great Anvil, he held so much pain for the loss of his brother, and when he struck down his hammer on the blade, he harnessed all of his fury and vengeance and imbued it into the weapon. Dwarven appearance. Male dwarves. Dwarves are 4 to 5 feet tall, stocky and muscular. Males prize their elaborate beards, females their decorative hairstyles and piercings. Female dwarves. Most female dwarves do not appear to have beards. However, Falstad's grandmother, a wild dwarf, is described as having a beard, and female hill dwarves are described as having beards. A female dwarf with a beard is referenced in a quest in World of Warcraft as well, during the Blump Fishing Challenge. Gron Blump is said to have a beard. Beards owned by female dwarves appear to be rare, especially in Ironforged dwarves. However, female dwarves who sported Strong beards are considered a sign of beauty among members of the race. Two bearded sisters fought in the battle to retake Grim Batal. It is unknown if other female dwarves grow beards but then chose to shave them. Dwarven clans. Ironforge clan, the original dwarven clan which evolved from the Earthen. They ruled the other clans until the death of Modamus and Vilmar, the last of the Ironforge clan. The Bronzebeard clan fought during the War of the Three Hammers. Bronzebeard clan, the leaders of Ironforge after the death of Modamus and Vilmar. Their capital is Ironforge. They continued to have control of Ironforge following the War of the Three Hammers. Stonefist clan, small clan belonging to the Ironforge Dwarves. Wildhammer clan, an alliance non-playable faction who was once united with the other clans by the Ironforge clan. Stormpike clan, a clan found primarily living in the Alterac mountains within the valleys of Alterac. They have ties to Ironforge and the Wildhammer Dwarves. Dark Iron clan, a hostile, non-playable faction that was once united with the other clans by the Ironforge clan. Frostborn, a newly discovered faction. They make their home in northern Storm Peaks and have befriended the Explorers League. Iron Dwarves. Hill Dwarf is a term to describe the dwarves living in the hills. Mountain Dwarf is a term used to describe the dwarves living in the mountains. Characters described as being hill dwarves include Rom, Gimel, Judge, Narn. Characters described as mountain dwarves include Falstad, Dragon Reaver, Glodin Moloch, Tupan, and Jorg Stormheart. The Bronzebeard clan and Wildhammer clan have both been described as having hill dwarves and mountain dwarves. Sorry for the length of this one, but as I said at the beginning, there is a lot of lore. I could have gone on. I have at least another page of information on dwarves, but that's not lore. That's things like the inspiration for the dwarves, which basically just says they're inspired from Tolkien's description of dwarves and the ancient Nord description of dwarves. And trivia, which to be honest, I haven't read. If you're interested in me adding trivia to this vid at a later date, please let me know, or doing the trivia separately even, please let me know. As always, remember, play the game and game to play.